Hello, welcome to Think About It, a program where we discuss important issues impacting our society. My name is Rick, and today we will be talking about what is a man. What is a man? You know, recently we had a conversation about what is a woman. We even had a Supreme Court justice when she was asked during her confirmation, what is a woman? She didn't know what a woman was, right? And we have in our society a lot of confusion into what is a man, what is a woman. Our society have a lot of transgenderism when people think I can just go ahead and change my gender, etc. So we want to talk about what is a man, right? First of all, we know that God made us in a way that we can quickly identify what we are. When you are born, the body you are in, that's who you are basically, right? Women has different parts, men have different parts. But to go deeper, a man is not just being born like in a particular gender. To be a man requires much more, right? Because God made us, right? And if you want to know what something is, you want to go to the maker of the thing to understand what it is and how it was meant to function, right? So God made both men and women in his image, right? And so if you want to know what a man is or what a woman is, we have to go to the scriptures to find out what is a man. So let's take a look at what is a man. We know, like I mentioned before, that man is made in the image of God. But if you go in the first chapters of Genesis, right, you realize very quickly some of the roles of a man, what makes a man, right? So you look at Adam. You know, when God made Adam, he gave him specific tasks, right? God made Adam first. When he made Adam first, one of the first things that he gave him a work to do. He gave him a work. He tell him to come and name the animals. He placed him in a garden. You tell him to name the animals, etc. And after Adam named the animals, Adam had like a relationship with God. First, he named the animals, and then God provided Adam with a wife. So what have we learned so far, right? The first thing we learn is to be a man according to design. You first need to have a relationship with God, right? That's what makes a man, because as a man, you will never know your true identity if you don't know your maker, right? So you have to know your maker. So first thing is a man need to know his maker. That's number one, right? Number one. Number two, God gave Adam a job, right? He had a responsibility. God basically made him a provider, because we're looking at the image of God. God is a provider. And he make a man is supposed to be a provider. In our society, we have men who don't want to work, who want to be taken care of by women. That's a problem. That's a problem. God necessarily didn't make the woman to take care of the man in terms of financially and stuff like that. That was the man's job. Before the man had a woman, he had a job, right? So after Adam had a job, so we're looking at two things now, right? Adam was spiritually prepared because he knew God. He had a relationship with God, right? And then Adam was financially, if you want to say, prepared, right? Because he had a job. And then God brought him a woman, right? God brought him a woman. So we saw so far two things about a man. First, what makes a man needs to have a relationship with God, because only by having a relationship with God, he's going to know who he is. He's going to know his identity. He's going to know his career path, his mission on the planet. We have to learn these things from God, right? But if we want to go further, we will find out that a man is a protector. A man is a protector. Not only God gave Adam a job, but he told him how to protect his family. God told Adam and Eve, specifically he talked to Adam first. He says, the tree which is in the middle of the garden, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, don't eat that tree. Don't eat that tree. On the day you eat that tree, you will surely die. So Adam not only had a responsibility, he had work to take care of the garden, but he had a job also to protect his family from misery and destruction. A man is one who protects his family. And we don't have to say just family in terms of your wife and your children, etc. Family could be anything. Like if you're somewhere somebody's being abused, a man's job is to protect that. A man's job is to stand firm, A man's job is to play the role of Christ to defend the innocent, the fatherless, and the widow, right? So far, we're seeing that what makes a man needs to have a relationship with God, right? A man needs to have something he's doing, right? To take care, a job. These are the things that help, to fulfill the man, to make him like God, because God has job. God is not, how would I say it? God is not unemployed. Jesus says, my Father works always and I work always, right? And a man is a protector. God gave him a specific task to protect his family. So in all that, we don't see that, okay, a man needs a woman to be a man. No. A man does not need a woman to be a man. A man has a woman. You see the difference? A man does not need a woman to be a man. But it takes a man to have a woman. So a lot of you fellas out there, looking for a woman to complete you, to make you a man, that's crazy. That's crazy, right? So other thing we saw that very early on, Adam failed in his responsibility as a man. His wife, was deceived by the serpent, and the wife brought the fruit to him, right? And she offered Adam the fruit. Now, Adam was not deceived. He knew what God said, right? And he knew that his wife had sinned. And this is where he had to play his role as a man to defend the family, to tell the wife, you have been deceived. You ate from what God told you not to eat. I'm going to take you to God. I'm not going to eat with you. I'm not going to follow you to destruction. I'm going to take you to God. So a man has to love God more than he loves anybody else. A man has to love God more than he loves his wife. You have many men out there trying to, praying. All their prayers probably is, I want to get a wife. No, friends. That's making, a lot of times, even in our prayers, we can make getting a spouse an idol. We should be praying, Lord, I want to know you more. Because remember, it was not Adam who asked God for a wife. He didn't ask God for a wife. God provided him with a wife when he was ready. God was the one who did that. So as a man, like I said again, you don't want to put your wife ahead of Christ. The moment you do that, disaster will happen. Disaster will happen, right? So, but Adam, he neglected his responsibility as a protector of the home. He followed his wife into perdition, right? He followed his wife into sinning, right? And since then, we've seen a reversal of role in our society, right? Where men don't know what it means to be a man. A lot of men are just waiting for their wives to make decisions, right? But that's not how it is. So even after men sinned, we saw that God came and passed judgment, and God specifically highlighted the different roles, right? God mentioned that the man ruled over his wife, right? And the wife submit, right? Also, God told the man that he is going to work the ground. Again, God reiterated the idea of the man being the one who is to work to provide for his family. Now, in our society, we know it's very difficult. We live in the United States. It's very difficult. It's very expensive for sometimes just one person to be working and taking care of the family, for the men to be working and taking care of the family. So both men and women are working, which create a lot of problems too. It has its problems, about working out. I mean, the women works in the home too. Even back in the days in the Bible, the women worked. The women was Adam's helpmeet. Different families may require different things. So if your family require both you and your wife to work, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. As long as you guys manage to have time for God and time for each other, I think it's fine. And if you have children, time for your children to educate your children, it's all good. But what I'm saying is, you look at the scriptures in terms of looking at the image of God, looking at the man. God is always giving the man the responsibility to work, to oversee his family, So another thing that makes a man is to be a priesthood to the home, right? A man is supposed to be leading his family to God. You look at like throughout the Bible, the patriarch, the father was the priest of the home. That's not the responsibility that God has given men, right? To guide your family to God daily. You look at Job, he woke up in the morning, he offered sacrifices to God. He prayed for his family. He was a shield, not only a shield spiritually, but he was a shield physically to his family. So that's what it means by protector. You're protecting your family spiritually, and you're also protecting your family physically or financially, whatever is required, and you are able to do. You are not sick, you are not whatever it is, but as long as you are able to, by the grace of God, a man is to shield his family, right? After you shield your family, the Bible also says a man has to be strong. David, before he died, speaking to his son Solomon, he tell him to be strong like a man. A man has to try to be strong emotionally, try to be strong mentally, try to be strong, because strong men create good times. Strong men create good times. When a man is weak, he creates bad times. When a man is strong, he's able to handle the stress of his family. He's able to handle the stress of those around him and to provide an environment where they can thrive. So God called us men to be strong. You look at throughout history, you look at it in the Bible or wherever you look at, you will see that it is the man who goes to war. It's always the man who goes to war to defend the home, to defend the family, to defend the nation. And we live in a time, in our modern time, where men are very weak. Men cannot handle anything. Because in the initial causes, men have departed from God. So as they departed from God, we have lost our identity and we have become weak. Sometimes the Bible would call men who are nations that have like a weak men. This is like they have become like women. They have become weak like women, right? Making the differences, because the Bible recognizes that the man is stronger than the woman. God designed it like that because the stronger is to protect the woman, right? So a man has to be strong. Another thing with being a man has to be loving. A man has to be loving because we're looking at the image of God. We're looking at Christ as the perfect man. Christ is all that I've mentioned, right? Christ knows the Father. He has a relationship with God. Christ has a job. He's the one who created all things, right? And Christ also has a bride, the church. Who provide? Christ provide, right? Christ does everything for the church. Sometimes men be like, 50%, this and that. No. God calls the man to be like Christ. Now, that's what I'm saying. Being a man is not easy. It's a very difficult thing, because being a man is being like Christ. You know what I'm saying? Seeing how Christ operates. And that's what God is calling us to be. That's why it's so difficult for us. I think it's impossible to be a real man if you're not connected with God, right? So we're looking at Christ, and Christ is loving. Christ loved the church. Sometimes when we have discussions with my friends, the question be coming up: which one is first? Should the women submit first in a marriage, in a relationship? Should the women submit first, or should the men love first? See, if you don't look at Christ, who is the perfect man, if you're not looking at God in order to reflect that image of God, the confusion will go on. I think some people will say, I think the women should submit first. Some people will say, I think the men should submit first, should love first. But what did God say? What example have Christ shown us? The Bible says, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us, right? So that means that it is the man who loves first. The man is the one that loved the woman first, that showered the woman first, that pursues after the woman. Many men nowadays want women to pursue them. They're waiting for a woman to come propose to them, etc., or whatever. But that's not what we see in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like it is God who pursues us. It is Christ who pursues us, right? So as men, if you see let's say you're looking for a marriage, you're ready, you think you're ready spiritually, you're ready financially, and you have been talking to God, and God says, okay, I'm gonna bring you a woman, etc. You pursue that woman. You woo that woman. You show love to that woman, right? You show that woman that you are somebody who can take care of her emotionally, spiritually, etc. You show that woman that you want to be like God to her, and you show that woman love. You show that woman love, right? So, another question I would say, okay, Do you have to be married to be a man? No. The Apostle Paul was single. So again, I want you guys to take away the idea that you need a woman to be a man. You don't need a woman to be a man. The same way a woman doesn't need a man to be a woman. What you need to be a man is God. That's what we are focusing on. You need God. What you need to be a woman, because this podcast is not really about women, but what you need to be a woman is God. Right? If I was doing this on women, I would speak about the different characteristics and how the women can become the perfect woman as designed. But we're speaking about men here. You don't need a woman to be a man. Right? So loving, a man has to be loving. A man has to be like Christ. A man has to be forgiving. Right? All these things take strength. A man has to be tender to those around him. Matter of fact, if you're a man, you think you're stronger than other people, you have to be these characteristics. A man can't be abusing those who are weaker than him. A man can't be abusing his spouse, his children, or if he's a manager somewhere, abusing his employees. A man is to protect, to shield, to love, right? And when a man loves, if you're speaking in the context of marriage, if a man loves his wife, then the wife may respond with submission, right? But in order for you to be able to love like Christ loved, you're going to need to depend on Christ. It's not possible because a lot of men now, they complain about women being this and that. And funny thing is, the women become this and that because the men have neglected our role. We have forgotten what it means to be a man. As goes the man, so goes the home. As goes the man, so goes the church. As goes the man, so goes the society. As goes the man, so goes the nation. The man is the one that leads. The women follow the example of the man. If the man become weak, the women will start playing the role of the man. If a nation have weak men, soon that nation will be taken over by other nations with stronger men. So, man, we have to stop blaming women for the reasons of the marital problems, society's problems, and all these things. Yes, you could have specific cases where the woman is responsible. I'm not speaking about that, but I'm speaking about like men in general. Speaking about Christ, for example, right? Christ has a bride, but if you look at it in the Old Testament, God says He divorced Israel, His bride, because Israel was unfaithful, and Israel's unfaithfulness as the bride had nothing to do with God, because God was the perfect husband, right? But as men, we can't really claim to be perfect like that, right? But my thing is, being a man is not just looking masculine or going to the gym and lifting weights, etc., doing all these things. Being a man requires much more. Being a man requires knowing God. It requires knowing God. It requires having an intimate relationship with God and asking God, Lord, help me to become more like you. Lord, help me to be a provider like you are a provider. Lord, help me to be a protector like you are a protector. Lord, help me to be strong like you are strong. Lord, help me to be tender like you are tender. Lord, help me to be merciful like you are merciful. Lord, help me to be loving like you are loving. Matter of fact, the Bible says, husband, love your wife and be willing to lay down your life for her. The laying down the life is not just like physically, if somebody's trying to shoot your wife, you step in front of the wife and get shot. It's not just talking about that, but he's speaking about just like laying down your life in terms of your ego, right? In terms of your selfishness, in terms of different characteristics that are bad, right? So let's say, you come home and your wife want to talk to you and you're tired, right? And she want to tell you something that's very important. It requires laying down that life and to provide a hearing for her, right? So being a man requires a lot. And to be a man, especially in our society where masculinity is being pushed down, because the truth is a lot of the masculine ideas that we have in our society is they call it machismo, right? It's bad. It's toxic masculinity, right? Because a lot of time we in our society we associate masculinity with physical strength only, with violence, with talking loud. Like if you're having an argument with someone You yell at them. That's the way you show your masculinity, right? That's not what masculinity is. Matter of fact, a lot of these behaviors are actually someone who lacks self-control, right? Who lacks self-control. And a real man has self-control. A real man is one who rules over himself. Because before you can rule over your spouse, like God told Adam, like you will rule over your spouse, you have to rule over yourself. This is why a lot of men, they think when they hear the word that God says, okay, the man shall rule over you, they think like an aggressive, a tyrannical, like a dictator that want to rule over the wife. No, but God is saying that a man who will rule over his wife must first rule over himself. And then he will be able to treat his wife and those around him with loving kindness and tenderness and mercy. So to be a man, friends, to be a man, we have to look to God. To be a man, we have to continually walk with God. To be a man, we have to ask the Lord in prayer, Lord, help me to be like you. Help me to reflect your divine image. Make me in the image of Christ. To be a man is to be like Christ. Once again, this is Think About It, and see you next time.